So it's just before Christmas 2022, and we're heading into the high country. Plan is to start off at the far edge of the New South Wales side and work our way back towards home over the coming week.
Welcome to New South Wales.
VK5QI, VK5QI, VK3FUR, stroke VK2. That's right, we are now stroke VK2.
Stop to take a quick look at the snowy hydro scheme first. We're going to climb Mount Kosciuszko tomorrow, but today we've got to reach and set up camp. We're staying at the Bears Flat campground near Geehigh Flat, which includes Keeble's hut. This hut, along with most of them originally built by mountain cattlemen, exist for day use during bad weather, an emergency overnight shelter. There's been some pretty severe weather here over the past few weeks. A little bit of work needs to be done to work out exactly what we're able to do over the coming days, reconciling the list of tracks with where we're still able to go. Having worked out a vague itinerary, we took a walk around the campsite and then prepared for tomorrow, where we descend the highest mountain in Australia. So how exactly do you climb this mountain? Well, there's two main ways with some options. First is the old way, 7.6 kilometres up the gravel road from Charlotte Pass Ski Resort to Rawson's Pass, then another 1.6k up to the summit. Or take the back way round and walk the main range track from Charlotte's Pass, 11.6 kilometres plus the same 1.6 to the summit. Now the first one's actually a road. Until 1977 you could actually drive up to within metres of the summit, but the environmental damage that was causing to the area caused that to be discontinued. But you're still allowed to ride a bike up the gravel road, just not the final 1.6 to the summit. At Rawson's Pass you lock your bike up at Australia's highest bike rack, then do the last bit on foot. The second way is a little easier though. You take the chairlift from Thredbo to the top of the hill, and then it's a flatter 5 kilometre walk on a solid metal causeway to Rawson's Pass, with the same final 1.6 after that. But there's actually a secret, more complex third thing. Hannell's Spur Track starts near Geehigh Flat, and is a 22.5 kilometre grade 5 hike from there to the summit. With 1800 metres of elevation gain, the most of any single formal walking track in all of Australia. Although being grade 5, there's actually very little in the way of trail, and that distance will take you 2 to 3 days to complete. This follows the route that Paul Strzelecki followed when he first climbed it, aided by 2 Indigenous guides. Now as you can see, we have picked the Thredbo chairlift option here, the easiest of the lot. So who was Thaddeus Kosciuszko, and why did we name a mountain after him, then completely butcher his name for the official pronunciation? Thaddeus was born in 1746 and died in 1817. He was a military engineer and leader who fought for Poland in the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth struggles against Russia and Prussia, and later on in the US side in the War of Independence against the British. Later, he instigated what was known as the Kosciuszko Uprising, which although unsuccessful was kind of instrumental in the history of Poland. So why would we in Australia end up naming our tallest mountain after him? Actually, we kinda didn't. Paul Strzelecki, and that's a name you'll see in quite a few places, actually named it after the Kosciuszko Mound, an artificial hill in Krakow built in his honour. This way goes to the summit and the long way back to Charlotte's Pass. And over here, Australia's highest bike rack.
Where'd you get that from?
In 2019, the name Kunama Namaji, meaning snow-covered mountain, was submitted to the Geographical Names Board of New South Wales as a proposed dual name for Kosciuszko, although that name has been not universally agreed on, as to one of the tribes from the surrounding area, Kunama to them means feces, not snow. So here we are at the summit, 2,228 metres above sea level. Yeah, Australia's pretty flat. This isn't a particularly impressive high point on the numbers, but the view certainly is regardless. Higher points do exist within Australian territory. Dome Argus at 4,030 metres in Antarctica, although with that one you're standing on about 2,400 metres of ice, so that may not count. So it might actually be Mount McClintock at 3,490 metres. Okay, if Antarctica doesn't count because, well, Antarctic sovereignty is complicated, Mawson Peak on Heard Island is 2,745 metres. But all of those, they're a lot harder to get to.
And I'm at the top of Mount Kosciuszko here. Good to make contact with you. Not much I can do about the wind, sorry. Over.
No worries, Charlotte, understand. You've got, I think, a bit of page interference coming over top of you, noise down there too.
So which one's that?
That one is Wodonga.
Wodonga. How many K?
137 Ks.
Nice. And I think that's a new distance record. The old adage goes that height is might, and that's certainly true with 137 kilometres being achieved out of a handheld radio. Okay, so maybe trail runners with all the tread worn off aren't quite the right shoes to be doing this in. At this point normally you go back to the chairlift, but we're going to head down a bit of the road to Charlotte's Pass and check out Seaman's Hut. Hey.
Now that should realise that we have skipped going back up the mountain on course. There we go.
I swear half the time I bring the trekking poles I don't want them, and the other half when I don't, I wish I had them. However, they're definitely no good on the metal walkway. On our way back, we briefly check out the Tom Grogan River crossing. More on that later, but I did have concerns that given the amount of recent rain it would be far too deep, but it seems okay. Then we head back to the campsite. There was certainly more wildlife than before we left. Also, the ZFC with an f1.4 lens is amazing at this. In this last shot, it was actually bordering on too dark to see in real life. Join us next time for some caves. Until then, don't forget to like, comment and subscribe, and see you next time.